Hey, Caitlin. I'm so happy to have you on. For anyone listening, I'm Megan Moraes Gerzon, and I'm super excited for this episode of Get Real and Own Person podcast. And I have Kaitlyn Mazzarella here. Funny story, we actually met at a mutual friend's wedding. We didn't know each other. We were at the same table, and I'm very happy we've stayed connected ever since. So welcome. Feel free to introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm so glad we vibed at that table back in the day.
Me
That was a
too.
great a great
And our
match.
husbands did too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm Caitlin. I wear a lot of hats, as we'll get into. One of my big passions right now is career coaching. I am a former tech executive. I spent 10 years in technical sales, product marketing, the engineering world. And as we'll get into, one day a few years ago, I said, this is not right for me. So now I'm on a path of helping people connect to their purpose, connect to their careers, and a bunch of other hats that we'll get into.
Yes. I feel like so many people can relate to this because you feel like you're on the path you should be on, right? You're doing what you should do and have a steady career and just drive towards that more and more. But I remember I met you and you were opening up about the stresses in your job and just Yeah. I see you now, and I've actually worked with you. You've been a career coach for me a couple of times, and I will continue to use you because you're great. um, and we're also connected on social media, and I see you just in your life doing things you love. And so today I wanted to talk about a topic called building a life that lights you up. And so maybe we can just start at the beginning. Can you talk about when you were in that high stress corporate role? Maybe the last one you were in. What was life like for you? How did you feel in your body? Things like that.
Yeah. Oof. So, I mean, it was a roller coaster. It was 10 years. There were some job changes in there. It was just so stressful, but it wasn't all bad. Like, there were aspects of it that I liked, that I got excited by. So, I got into the corporate engineering world when I was in my early 20s, fresh out of college. And I feel like for a lot of people in that phase, work is your life. You get a little taste of success, you get a good salary, you start getting benefits, you're able to buy things and go on trips, and you get so excited.
Hmm.
And I kind of got on this hamster wheel of work, 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 and work just became such a big part of my life, and I didn't have room for anything else, but I didn't know that that was not normal. I didn't know that it wasn't normal to be waking up at 5 a.m. so that I could get to work by 7 a.m., leave at 7 p.m. only to get on calls with, China and Taiwan at 9 p.m.
Wow.
Like, there was
And you
no
thought that
room.
was totally fine.
Yeah, it just, it kind of unfolded and expanded so naturally. And I saw that, my mentors at work were operating that way. And I
Mhm.
said, okay, well, I guess this is just how it is. Then COVID hit
Yes.
and everything kind of shifted. And I was kind of operating on that same timeline, but at home,
Mm.
inside, all day, talking to people on the computer, which doesn't feel
Just
real,
like this on your screen till you go to bed.
Yeah, and there really is such a difference with talking to someone in the office, having a meeting in a meeting room versus even having a meeting like this where we're on Zoom. Like,
Yeah.
I know I'm talking to you, but it's, I'm still alone in this room. And
Yeah.
that just, I don't know, after COVID, things just started changing. I started realizing maybe I don't want this. Um, but
Was
of
it
course I didn't listen for a while.
okay?
So yeah,
Was
kind
it
of took a while
'cause
to really accept that.
you kind of were craving more of the social aspect of it and that you felt isolated, or were you just getting burnt out? I'm wondering if there was, like, a specific moment where you're like, "I've had enough, I need to change." Was there anything that
Mhm.
caused that?
Yeah, definitely. Um, I mean, it was kind of a slow burn initially, just realizing, I'm at home constantly and I can't even take my dog out for a walk because I've got back to back to back to back meetings.
Oh my gosh, that's
Um,
the worst.
but on yeah, just not fun.
No, I've been there.
Uh, yeah. But then after a while, after I was kind of realizing, I need to make some changes, and I did make some changes, change my role, change my company, change my city, kind of in hopes that that would help. And it did for a little bit, but the biggest turning point for me was when a close family member of mine passed away in a pretty tough way. His
Oh,
name was Frank. And losing Frank just he was a father figure to me. He was in my life since I was 4 years old.
wow.
He was my sister's husband, and it just changed everything for me, and I think you can relate to how loss
Yes.
changes the way you see work, changes what your priorities and values are, and I
Changes
looked at my
everything.
life everything. And I
Mhm.
was like, "Why am I suffering so much at work like this?" Because I'm suffering with my grief, and then on top of that is all this work stress. I'm like, "Why am I doing this to myself?"
So, it seems like something happened in your life that kind of shook you up and realized, like, "You know what? I actually don't need to suffer more." Um,
Mhm,
was it difficult, though, to kind of, like, walk away at all, or did you just feel liberated and you felt like this was the healthy move?
mhm. Yeah, so kind of both.
Mhm.
Another thing that was interesting too is, while I was in this grief phase, my sister's in this grief phase. She just lost her husband,
Oh, I can't
but
imagine.
she was so excited to get back to work because she works with students. She's a math tutor. She's been running her own business for 15 years. She's amazing at it.
Wow.
And seeing her on her path in a job that helped her was just shocking to me, like, it made no sense, and so I was like, "Alright, I gotta make a change, like, this is insane," and,
Mhm.
you're asking, like, was it hard to walk away? Definitely, but it became to the point where the pain of staying where I was at was too much, and I was like, "Okay, at this point, the pain of staying the same is probably worse than the pain of change because
Mm.
change is hard." It's scary, it's unknown, you don't know what you're gonna do, you don't know if it's gonna work, but I just realized, like, I can't keep going on like this, so if there's even a 1% chance that it could be better with the change, I have to do something about this.
Yeah, that makes total sense, and I love what you said of, like, sometimes no change is worse than even taking that risk, and that
Mhm.
1% could just open everything up for you, and it seems like you had that example with your sister, and you saw her healing that way and thriving that way, and actually, I can really relate to that, and, my mom had passed almost a year ago, and my dad recently passed, so it's been a crazy year, but, around, in the midst of the grieving, I threw myself into this new role. I left my old role and created my own business, own person, and to finally feel like we were just talking about, I feel like this lights me up much more than just staying in, the monotonous, same old, draining situation. So that's really great. And I'm curious, when you decided you wanted to do something on your own, how did you come to career coaching? Like, was that something you were interested in before, or you kind of landed on that?
Yeah, so it's definitely something that developed. The one thing I knew is that I wanna be working with people one-on-one, and I was like, "I just wanna help people."
Yeah.
Which going back to my, in engineering, that was always my goal. I had always planned to go into medical engineering because I wanted to help
Oh,
people in that way, but
that's awesome.
along the way, I found technical sales and just, I kind of lost my way, I think. And so I did a lot of soul searching to remember, like, what do I care about? What lights me up? And I did some certifications to get qualified to coach people in different ways. And what ended up coming up was that I've had so many challenges with my own career, with
Mhm.
navigating big changes, changing within a company, changing industries, changing cities. And I was always helping my friends that were going through those same struggles too. And so it just kind of made sense. Like, I've survived all of these difficult changes. There's so much that I've learned from that. And I always feel so empathetic when I hear someone complaining about my job is so hard. I'm so miserable. I'm so depressed. I don't know what to do, but I feel like I should just stay here because I hear that all the time. And
Mm.
you don't need to stay. Like, it's hard to change, but it doesn't have to be this big dramatic quitting story. You could just find a skill that lights you up, find a certification that you want to learn about, and just do that alongside your full time job or whatever you're already doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's just so great because you actually lived it, and so now you're practicing what you're preaching in a way and helping people in a way you feel like you were able to figure it out, and now you can share that with others. And so you said you did some soul searching to figure that out, and if you were giving advice to someone that feels stuck, what would you say? Like, how does someone go about in soul searching? Because I feel like you just know how to do that, but not maybe not everyone does. So, what would you advise?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say if it's not something that comes naturally, and it wasn't for me. So now I feel like it comes a little more naturally, but
Okay.
back then I really needed support. So, I went online. I did a lot of research about second career. I was looking at maybe nursing, maybe something in the medical field.
Okay.
I had no clue. I was so
Anything.
lost. Anything. And that was kind of the most painful part because I think I made it harder on myself because I wanted to do it by myself, doing all the research. But eventually, I got my own coach and
Okay.
was able to just have someone on the outside looking in. Someone else can see you and see your blind spots a lot of the time more clearly than you can.
It's true.
So getting a coach really helped, just someone to ask me questions, have me reflect, have me, even reflecting my own answers back to me. Sometimes you kind of know these things, but hearing it kind of shifts things for you.
And even saying it out loud sometimes is like, "Oh, really? Okay." It's just I feel like it changes you when you actually say your
Yeah.
intentions and your true feelings about the situation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Knowing it versus saying it is huge for sure, or even seeing it on paper. Seeing it on paper
Yes.
can be even more powerful because you 'cause you're looking at it. You can't you can't look away.
I'm a big fan of writing lists and, like,
Mhm.
actually also writing down stream of consciousness, and just getting everything out on paper is very helpful. I do that all the time.
Yes.
So at this point, you decided you wanted to do career coaching and starting your own business. As I know, there's uncertainty. You have to build it from the ground up. You had to get clients. So in those early days, how did you go about like what were your first couple of steps? What did it look like and feel like?
Mhm. Yeah, so starting out, I was doing a coaching certification program alongside my full-time job. So it was a lot of work, but I wasn't ready to make any big changes with my career. I didn't even know what my next career was going to be. So I said, okay, let me do this certification. And it was a group certification, which I think really helped because you
Okay,
have accountability, you have community, we're coaching each other for free. I started coaching other people for free from my network just to get practice, see what it felt like.
oh, that's good.
And so back then it was nice because it's just, it's a transition. It was something that I was doing on weekends and in the evenings. But as time went on, it just got to be a bit harder and harder. I'm still dealing with the stress from work, my grief, and then trying to coach people from a neutral, unbiased, place was starting to feel really difficult.
That's a lot. That's probably tiring.
Yeah, exactly. And, if I'm going to be coaching people on my career and I'm in a career that is kind of wrecking my mental health at the time, I kind of felt like a fraud. So I was like, all right, this coming a time where I need to make a change, but I was terrified.
Yeah.
And so I hired a different type of coach to help me. I thought she was going to help me, create a plan. This is the timeline for quitting. This is how much money I need to have saved up. But what she really helped me with was nervous system regulation. She put
Oh,
me in ice baths. She had me doing cold
talk all
plunges.
about that. I'm so interested.
Yes, I love it, which was so surprising to me because I hired her to help me with my career change. But from her perspective, she said, you already kind of know what to do.
Mhm.
You've got the list, you're saving the money.
Logically.
Yeah, logically, I didn't believe that at the time. But what I really needed was for my nervous system to have the capacity to do this hard thing that was going to feel challenging every step of the way.
Yes.
When I send the email about my resignation, my last day, my first day unemployed starting a business. And, I kept cold plunging, I kept doing breath work. And what the cold plunge really did for me is you get in the cold, you freak out. And what you're really learning is how to calm yourself when things are stressful.
That's amazing.
So my coach taught me breathing techniques, visualizations, techniques to just like get in touch with your body, like even touching your body or remembering that you're safe. And it was like a magic wand that just helped me handle all the stressors of job change so much easier.
I need to tap into that coach because I believe in that so much and just like the sensory aspect and how you feel in your body. And I've been getting into kind of like going down rabbit holes of quantum physics lately. And you'd probably be into that. And I saw this quote that was like, "Your nervous system is your experience of the world." So if you don't have those tools to regulate and manage the stress that comes up in a sensory, way for your actual nervous system in your body, then it's going to affect you not only physically but emotionally, mentally. And I feel like when people are trapped in jobs that are so stressful, you don't even realize how that affects your health and your wellness. So that's
Mhm.
just so great that you were able to use things like that to
Yeah.
get to the point where you're okay with the unknown, and what seemed terrifying was manageable, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I've
exactly.
also
Yeah,
done a few
definitely the
cold
most.
plunges and would love to do more of those. Did you do it every day?
Oh my gosh, no.
Oh, okay.
I was doing it I think I started once a month. At one
Okay,
point, I was doing it weekly, and I even still believe in them now. So, in my role now, I do a little bit of marketing consulting on the side for brands that I really believe in,
nice.
and one of them is a wellness center in downtown Austin that does cold plunges. So, I work for them, and I'm
That's
still cold
great.
plunging.
Oh, perfect. It's a win-win.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, love it.
So I also want to talk about other things you do just for yourself because, I mean, in building a life that lights you up, career is huge. I mean, you spend a lot of your time working and it's something you're driven towards. It coincides with your purpose and what you're contributing. But just to feel joy and to feel like your soul is alive, I mentioned I've been following you, and your dance journey, I think, is so delightful. When I first met you, you talked about how you had gotten into shuffle dancing, and you taught classes, and more recently you've done absolutely beautiful pole dancing classes. So do you want to talk about when you started those and how they have changed your life and your experiences?
Yes. Oh my gosh, these are some of my favorite topics. Just
Also, I'm a
movement.
dancer too. I love dancing.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember we connected that, and I even taught you some shuffle moves at the wedding,
Yes.
and you did them in heels. So,
I
just
need
need
to
to give you
practice.
gotta give you your flowers for that. That was
Thank you.
great. Um, but yeah, my dance journey, so I did a little bit of ballet when I was younger, hated it. I'm not a girly girl,
Yeah.
and so I was not into the pink tutus that my mom tried to put me in. Um But as I got older, I started seeing shufflers around me, and it's like Running Man, T-step, if you
Yeah.
kinda know those moves, and it's very high intensity, high speed, and it's honestly great for your health and your mental health. I didn't know that at the time when I started. I started back in 2019, had a really hard time learning. I actually gave up for a
It's
while
hard.
because it is so hard, and I just couldn't get it. I was doing YouTube tutorials, and I was like, "Why is this not working?" But then when I moved to Austin, I started taking classes in person and had some little things corrected, like, oh, just change this stance and change this positioning. And I think one of the biggest things was early on was that I did something that I previously thought that I couldn't. And so that built some confidence that, oh, like I can do hard things. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then it just became so much more about expression, community. I was still working from home, but every Tuesday at 7 p.m., I got to go see all my shuffle friends and learn something new and
That's
challenge
fun.
myself. And I love music so much. And, initially what started as, I want to go to all the classes, learn all the moves. I did some competitions, I've done
Oh,
some
really?
performing. Yeah.
That's
I've done a
amazing.
lot. I've like dabbled and tried different things, but now my practice feels a lot more personal. Like I'll dance at home for me, and I'll
That's
really
great.
take time to think, how am I feeling? What do I need to express? Put on music that suits that. Sometimes I have no mirrors, sometimes I have no cameras. I'm just dancing for me, and it just helps my mental health and just kind of re-energizes me after long day of meetings and coaching and planning my
Yeah.
business and all these things that we do.
Oh my god, I love that, and I'll say I've done something similar, not shuffle dancing, but, and I'm curious, do you do that mainly to get your energy back, or do you do that to release if you're going through, like, having a bad day, or is it kind of everything?
Both.
Okay.
It's like It's like a magic fix. Yeah, it can help me energize. I was dancing before we got on this call
To pump
just
yourself up.
to yeah, just to get the vibes going, and it just makes me feel like me.
Well,
Like,
it
I
worked
don't
because you
know.
have a good vibe that feels very authentic right now, so thank you for doing that, and I was gonna say, we talked about the grieving journey, and sometimes you just have to move, and I love music, I love dance just like you, and there have been times where I was alone in my house, blasted music, and just, like, danced around my living room and was sweating, like, actually dancing a lot, and then I felt great. I felt like I got it out. So, I'm so for that, and I think that's, like, obviously you've recorded videos and you've been teaching, but just to do it for yourself, is
Mhm.
really beautiful, and so, kind of since you've been doing more of this movement and feeling you're creatively expressing yourself, do you feel like that has helped you in your coaching and just in I mean, you said it brings a more positive energy, so I can imagine that puts you in a better headspace in your work, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it definitely energizes me, motivates me, but one of the things it also does is that it reminds me that I'm not just my job.
Yes.
Because I think for a long time, I define myself as I'm this type of engineer or I'm
Yeah.
technical sales, I'm marketing, whatever job I was.
You're in a box.
And so, yeah. And so the identity shift, obviously, there's going to be identity shifts as you change your career, but I now feel like I have this foundation. I'm a dancer. This is the way that I move. This is, the music that I'm drawn to, the dancing. I was always very into shuffling and getting into pole dancing has been very, fulfilling. It's more feminine, which was uncomfortable for me.
Yeah,
So,
you're really good at it too, and talk about heels. The the heels you're wearing in those videos is so impressive.
thank you. I appreciate that. I don't even wear heels in real life. The nice thing though in pole dancing is you've got these huge 7 or 8 inch heels, but you also have a pole to hang on to. So it kind of helps with
You can balance
stability.
on the pole.
Yes, you're balancing.
But
Yeah.
I think
But
it's just a beautiful art, and I feel like, I'm gonna post this to LinkedIn, but I hope everyone on LinkedIn opens their mind to pole dancing because I think it's gorgeous and just difficult. It's very strenuous and takes a lot of practice. So, props to you.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love it.
Awesome. So you've been able to kind of redefine how you think about your identity. And I was going to say, go and I don't know if you will eventually go through this, but I went through a huge kind of confusion about my identity when I left for maternity leave and then had a child and became a mother because before that I was like, oh, career is like the biggest thing that defines me. I'm a content marketer, whatever I was. And since then, I'm like, that is not what I lead with at all. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a creative person. So it seems like you kind of had a similar revelation. And that, like you said, will continue to evolve and transform what our identity is again and again.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and in this process, you have a better sense of what excites you and what kind of feeds your soul and makes you feel like you. I like you said, I feel like me. So when you're working with people, t- do you focus on achieving that for others? How do you get to the core of helping someone understand who they are? Because I do that
Mhm.
work with own person. I think we're similar in that way where we want to bring out someone's true self and true authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a bunch of different methods that I use where, we'll go through this 5-step process, but the basis of it is I kind of refer to it as following the butterflies.
Mhm.
So following your ever evolving interests and passions.
Yeah.
And that being said, not all of your passions or interests are going to be your career. Some things are just going to be, I think of it as you've got your 9 to 5 and then your 5 to 9. Obviously, not always that clear, but what are you doing in life to light you up and fulfill you? And then from a career perspective, what is it that you want to be doing? Like, what is going to make you feel passionate about the work you're doing, passionate about the outcome? Because for me, for a very long time, I showed up to these 60-hour work weeks. I did not care how many semiconductors we were selling. I didn't care about this end product. I just didn't really care. I didn't have any personal tie to it.
I
Um,
have been there a lot. where it
Yes.
was this technology that I didn't have any personal connection to and didn't care about.
Yeah, and it's like you can show up and you can find the motivation to get through the day, whatever it is. But I think one thing that happened after Frank passed away, and he loved his job. He was a teacher, but he wasn't just a teacher. He would constantly be bringing new curriculums, which sometimes was annoying to his staff because he was always wanting to bring new things for his students, change the way he did things, but he loved what he did. And seeing that really inspired me to think like, well, what difference do I want to make? And not to be morbid, but I was at his funeral service and his students were there
Wow.
and thinking he made so much of a difference that some of these students hadn't been in his classroom for 15, 20 years
Wow.
and they came back for Mr. Russo,
You would
their
never forget
pharmacy
that.
teacher.
That's
Yeah.
that's wonderful, and I love that message. It's like and some people are probably confused and lost and have no idea, but, um, if you do that soul searching and it seems like you guide people in your curriculum, then you can pinpoint, "Okay, how do I actually want to impact people and
Mhm.
help and feel like I'm doing my part and doing something meaningful?" Because,
Mhm.
like we were saying, you can just have a job that's a job, but after a while, it doesn't serve you. And I think there comes a point where you have to actually feel like you genuinely are doing something that aligns with who you are and what you want to contribute.
Exactly. And like no job is going to be perfect too. That's
No.
another thing I've realized. I think when I was changing jobs, I was trying to find the perfect job where I was happy 100% of the time, but what I've realized is for me it's more about what problems am I dealing with and are these problems worth the effort that I'm putting in because every job is going to have its challenges, its pros and its cons and for me being in the engineering world, those drawbacks just weren't worth it for me, but now coaching, working with people, seeing the outcomes, seeing people change their jobs, level up, making more money, being more aligned, whatever it is that they wanna do, seeing that is worth all the challenges that the job comes with.
Yeah, like it has to be worth it for you and it
Mhm.
has to add something to your life because I had that revelation as well where it's like and I was just speaking to you about how I'm still looking for and applying for other roles as well just to see what happens. And it's like, okay, that's a possibility, but think about what would that actually bring to me? Not just what would I bring to that role, that company. What would that bring to my life? So
Mhm.
I think when you realize that it's not worth, spinning your wheels and going through stress when um, it's not that level of meaning, compared
Mhm.
to seeing what comes out of your career coaching and the actual people. Like you said, the one-on-one work, you actually
Mhm.
see how it affects people individually, and it's about the human experience and how you directly affect them. So that's so great. And I'm just thinking about, your engineering self, that old corporate persona. Thinking about what you've created and where you're at now, what would you tell them or what would you advise or, how would you make them feel better?
Like someone that's in that corporate job and just really struggling with it?
Someone or even you when you were going through that, what would you
Mm.
say to yourself?
Oh my gosh. I think first of all, I would just hug her
Yes. Oh,
because
always.
she's probably in the bathroom crying again at work.
Oh, so sad.
Uh, yeah, but it was like the norm, and it wasn't just
That should
me.
not be the
Like,
norm.
this is so normal. Sometimes I would bump into the friend on the way to the bathroom to cry, and we would cry together,
Wow.
which, kinda cute in a way, but, it's not it doesn't need to be that way, and
And
so
it's not
young
life or
too.
death either, like, the
Mm.
fact that these companies put that pressure on, especially young
Mhm,
professionals,
mhm.
it's like, it's just not worth it.
Yeah. And also partially on me because I had no boundaries.
Yeah,
I had no concept of boundaries. I didn't know what a boundary was. I was like, "Oh, you need me to work until 8 p.m.? Yeah, let's do it."
yeah.
Not no concept of boundaries. But I mean, if I could talk to my younger self, I think, I would obviously tell her like it doesn't need to be this hard. This isn't normal. This isn't healthy. And she would probably say, I know, but she didn't. And I think that's kind of just part of the journey because for some people, like, if someone is struggling with their job, complaining about their job, very unhappy, I am never going to force someone to work with me. But if you're ready to change that situation, let's talk. And for anyone else in that situation, I'd say just find someone to talk to. Doesn't have to be a professional if it's a friend, a family member, but if you don't have anyone that, maybe can challenge you and support you in that way, finding a coach, talking to a therapist, just
Mhm.
finding someone to help ask you those questions and motivate that change in yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge point where you don't have to suffer alone, you don't have to figure it out alone, and it's productive, smart, and helpful to bounce ideas off of another person, to ask other people for their opinions, and to work with someone that's supporting you along the way and guiding you along the way. And you did that with more than one coach, right? So, um, I think that's really good advice. And so, in terms of just what you've learned about success, how you define success, um, what do you think is most misunderstood, and what do you wish most people thought about what it means to be
Mhm.
successful?
Hmm. That's a good question. It's not it's not clear cut, I think is one of the biggest things that I've learned, and there's a lot of trade-offs that come with it because you could see before I felt successful and I think I looked successful. I'm driving a nice car, I have a nice place, I have a nice job with a nice title and blah, blah, blah. But I was really struggling with my mental health.
Yeah.
My depression was at an all-time low and I was kind of neglecting it. And now success looks a lot different and is even perceived a lot differently by people. Before when I would say I was an engineer, people would be like, oh, that's amazing. You're so successful. But on the inside, miserable. And now I tell people I'm a career coach and they're like, okay, cool.
Yeah. They don't quite
And
get
so
it.
yeah, like, people don't get it so much, but it's really it's not always a very clear thing, even to myself, because now, like I said, I've got a different set of problems, and I'm always kinda course correcting. I'm like, "Okay, in the situation right now, I'm doing, my own coaching. I do, contract coaching for a business that I really believe in. I do marketing, consulting,
You're busy.
and so I'm a busy girl.
That's awesome.
And sometimes I'm looking at that, I'm like, "Okay, am I happy with this split? Am I happy with how I'm spending my time?" So it's constant course correction
And
and also
reflection,
just
it seems
constantly
like, right?
say that again?
So, and reflection, right? Like you're course correcting, but reflecting on, is this filling me up and lighting me up?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because there was a time where I was doing, more of my personal coaching more full time, and I just had back to back to back to back clients.
Mm,
And a lot of the same conversations, not always, but if I had a lot of layoffs that were coming to me, a lot of that, I'm doing education, I'm explaining here's how to optimize your resume for the system that's going to be scanning your resume, sharing tips and tricks like that.
yep.
And I was realizing, okay, maybe I don't want to be doing this specific type of coaching 40 hours a week.
Right.
So that's when I started to diversify. And that I was like, okay, am I not successful anymore because I'm diversifying? So it's like, an always changing thing, constant course correction, and just kind of figuring out what are the problems that I wanna have right now.
Well, you're in control, which is so cool.
Mhm,
That's the best
mhm,
part is it's up to you. Whatever feels good,
mhm,
what feels like it feels healthy, it feels manageable, it's interesting, um, and it can always change, which is great. And it's like your decision when and how that will change. So that's pretty
mhm.
empowering.
Yeah, and I think people are more in charge of their career than they think they are,
Yeah.
especially now we're in October 2025, the job market is tough.
Yes.
It's a lot harder than it used to be, there's a lot of layoffs going on, there's so many qualified people in the market. Just because it's tough doesn't mean it's impossible to get a job, though. And just because it's tough to get a job doesn't mean that you can't change if you're really unhappy in your situation. And I think, one of the big messages I like to give is you have control. You do have
Yes.
control. If you're unhappy with something, you can change it, even if it's hard.
And it's not hopeless, you're not powerless. It's possible. You just have
Hmm.
to make those steps. And so my last question actually was, for someone who feels like, okay, I actually do need to make a change. I'm ready. What's the first thing they can do? Like, what would you say is the first step they can take to get closer to actually changing?
Mhm. I would say tell somebody you love,
Yeah.
because somebody you love is going to talk to you about it, is gonna hold you accountable, support you. And then kind of like I said earlier, finding someone that can help you find your way, because it's hard to see yourself objectively. One of the things that I do with clients is we look at their skill set and we look at their interests and we try to see, okay, is there a way that we can Venn diagram this into something that takes what you do really well, takes where you want to make an impact and marries those two.
Mhm.
And when you're looking at yourself, you might not automatically know the things that you're great at, because there are going to be some things that come so naturally to you that you think everyone is good at that thing. And so having the outside perspective of someone that you love, or just, a coach or something, is going to kind of help you put some of those puzzle pieces together that are right under your nose, but you don't quite see it. They're in a blind spot for you.
Yeah, just having someone to help you see what you might have overlooked that's right there. In working with you, I definitely felt that way. And like I said, I want to work with you again. So I'm excited to do
Yeah.
that. But yeah, this was a great conversation. I think this is very relatable for a lot of people. And it seems like you're already helping so many people in a huge way. So props to you for being brave enough to make that your life. And also, I'm going to be practicing my shuffling. When
Yes.
when I have any free time, I will do that.
I love it. Next time I'm in the area, we'll have to shuffle together. We could take a class together or something
Yes. Oh,
fun.
that would be so fun to take a class.
Uh,
Cool. Well, thank you so much, and we will talk soon.
yeah, thanks for having me. Bye.
Okay, bye.